wisdom,
prudentia,
justice,
justitia,
temperance,
temperantia,
courage.
fortitudo.
Applying ancient philosophy to modern life, this is the Sunday Stoic.
Welcome to the Sunday Stoic podcast. For those of you joining us for the first time, this is a podcast on which I read ancient philosophy and interpret how we can apply it to our modern lives. And specifically, we focus, of course, on the philosophy of Stoicism. This episode wraps up our several-week survey of the writings of Seneca. And on this episode, we're focusing on an essay which has a couple of titles, but one of them is On the Happy Life. And we're going to focus in on some writings within this essay where he discusses the fact that we'll probably never be sages, but the important thing is that we try. And then he gives us various precepts that we might keep in mind, sort of goalposts we might set for ourselves if we wish to lead effective, relevant, ethical lives that when the end is reached, we can look back on with pride. On the Happy Life, Book 20, by Seneca. Quote, philosophers do not carry into effect all that they teach, unquote. No, but they effect much good by their teaching, by the noble thoughts which they conceive in their minds. Would indeed that they could act upon their talk. What could be happier than they would be? But in the meanwhile you have no right to despise good sayings and hearts full of good thoughts. Men deserve praise for engaging in profitable studies, even though they stop short of producing any results. Why need we wonder if those who begin to climb a steep path do not succeed in ascending it very high? Yet if you be a man, look with respect on those who attempt great things, even though they fall. It is the act of a generous spirit to proportion his efforts not to his own strength, but to that of human nature. To entertain lofty aims and to conceive plans which are too vast to be carried into execution even by those who are endowed with gigantic intellects, who appoint for themselves the following rules. I will look upon death or upon a comedy with the same expression of countenance. I will submit to labors, however great they may be, supporting the strength of my body by that of my mind. I will despise riches when I have them as much as when I have them not. If they be elsewhere, I will not be more gloomy. If they sparkle around me, I will not be more lively than I should otherwise be. Whether fortune comes or goes, I will take no notice of her. I will view all lands as though they belonged to me, and my own as though they belonged to all mankind. I will so live as to remember that I was born for others, and I will thank nature on this account, for in what fashion could she have done better for me? She has given me alone to all, and all to me alone. Whatever I may possess, I will neither hoard it greedily nor squander it recklessly. I will think that I have no possession so real as those which I have given away to deserving people. I will not reckon benefits by their magnitude or number, or by anything except the value set upon them by the receiver. I will never consider a gift to be a large one, if it bestowed upon a worthy object. I will do nothing because of public opinion, but everything because of conscience. Whenever I do anything alone or by myself, I will believe that the eyes of the Roman people are upon me while I do it. In eating and drinking, my object shall be to quench the desires of nature, not to fill and empty my belly. I will be agreeable with my friends, and gentle and mild to my foes. I will grant pardon before I am asked for it, and I will meet the wishes of honorable men halfway. I will bear in mind that the world is my native city, that its governors are the gods, and that they stand above and around me, criticizing whatever I do or say. Whenever nature demands my breath again, or reason bids me to dismiss it, I will quit this life, calling all to witness that I have loved a good conscience and good pursuits, that no one's freedom, my own least of all, has been impaired through me. He who sits upon these as rules of his life will soar aloft and strive to make his way to the gods, But you who hate both virtue and those who practice it do nothing at which we need to be surprised. Book 21. But how is it that this man studies philosophy and nevertheless lives the life of a rich man? Why does he say that wealth ought to be despised and yet possesses it, that life should be despised and yet live, that health should be despised and yet guard it with the utmost care, and wish it to be as good as possible? Does he not consider banishment to be an empty name, and say, what evil is there in changing one country or another? And yet permitted, does he not grow old in his native land? Does he not declare that there is no difference between a longer and shorter time, and yet, if he is not prevented, lengthen out his life and flourish in a green old age? His answer is that these things ought to be despised, not that he should not possess them, but that he should not possess them with fear and trembling. He does not drive them away from him, but when they leave him, he follows after them unconcernedly. Where, indeed, can fortune invest riches more securely than in a place from whence they can always be recovered without any squabble with their trustee? A lot of excellent advice and some unique advice here from Seneca. Seneca has a way of kind of wording things differently than perhaps other Stoics would. He says that philosophers don't always carry out what they preach. They don't always practice what they preach, and that's true. But that's not, he doesn't want to demean what they're preaching. He says it's still important to think about these amazing things, how the universe works, how human nature works, and how we should live. Just because we don't always live up to those principles doesn't mean that they're not worth talking about. That doesn't mean you can just talk out one side of your mouth while doing the opposite thing. But if you are talking about great things but not quite living up to them, but you're trying, then that's a worthwhile pursuit and something worth talking about, something worth praise. He goes on to talk about this list of rules that people who are making progress would appoint for themselves, and they include, I'll look upon death and comedy with the same expression. I don't know what that expression is, a smile or a frown, but the same expression whether you're watching a comedy or you're facing your own demise. There's a lot of comments in here about the relationship of a wise person and wealth. It's not something you pursue, but if you have it, you'll use it wisely. If you don't have it, you won't long for it, and you'll happily give it away. There's this idea of charity here that you don't always run into in Stoic writings. This idea that it's a good idea to help others, to give it to others. That the value of a gift is determined by the person you gave it to. And he also says, I'll never consider a gift to be a large one if it bestowed upon a worthy object. Once again, if you give a great thing to someone who's worthy, well, that was a worthwhile thing to do. I will do nothing because of public opinion, but everything because of conscience. He'll always consider himself to be watched by the Roman people and perhaps the gods, so always behaving in a way that is honorable, no matter who's around. And so it goes on and on and on. At the end, I have loved a good conscience and good pursuits, and that no one's freedom, least my own, has been impaired through me. So he's lived a free life, and he's impaired the freedom of no one else. And these are all lofty things that we could also strive for. I recommend you read through this list. I'll put the link in the show notes. You can go read this online. We should probably make a poster of this or something. It would be a great thing to have on the wall to remind yourself of some of these concepts to shoot for. Anyway, next time we're going to start looking at Musonius Rufus and then work our way to Epictetus. And I thank you for hanging with me through these episodes where we focus on a single philosopher at any given time. So make sure you email me any comments, anything. I got some great feedback from some people who mentioned that the show really was helping them out. And as a true Stoic, I wouldn't care about that so much. But as a podcaster, it's nice to hear back from the void, to know that, hey, I'm being heard, and some people still kind of like it, and it's a worthwhile thing for you. For me, it's worthwhile as a way to learn and to put things into my own words and to talk to you about it. And it's also nice to hear back from you, from the outer reaches of podcast land, to know that you're getting something out of it. So I appreciate that feedback, everybody. And thanks for supporting the show. Carpe diem.
Thank you for listening to The Sunday Stoic. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review The Sunday Stoic on iTunes. Become a member of the Sunday Stoic team, earn rewards, and be an integral part of the show by becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/SundayStoic. Contact the show by emailing sundaystoic@gmail.com or by leaving a voicemail at 501-503-3132. To find out more, visit www.sundaystoicpodcast.com. And as Steve always says, Carpe Diem.
Welcome to the Stoic Cosmopolis, a podcast for Sunday Stoic patrons. Patrons, how's it going this week? Hope all is well. Hey, I'm thinking about doing a Facebook Live thing here in the future, so anyone could log in and say howdy, and as a way to thank you for supporting the show. I have to figure out when that'll work out, but I'd like to do that in the near future. I've tried this once or twice before, but oftentimes I log in and no one else is there or whatever, but it's kind of hard when we live all around the world.